Good afternoon. My name is Gabby Angula. I'm the Managing Assistant Director for Tutoring, Training, and Technology in the Learning Commons. Before we begin, I'm just going to go over some resources that are available to you. We have made some changes. If you've attended our workshop before, we have made some slight changes to our welcome page at the learningcommons.king.edu website. If you see here, we have the resources that we typically have for Blackboard are now we are creating our own web page that has the resources listed here, and we will be adding the link to register for both students and faculty on this site as well. So this is something that we're continuing to build, but you can access those materials if you visit learningcommons.king.edu. We also have information on our page about OER resources. We also have information on tutoring and writing resources and research. So if your students need assistance, you can refer them to our page and they can book an appointment with a tutor or with a librarian. We also have a 24/7 live chat, so you can connect with our staff if you have any questions about remote education. Also, when you log into Blackboard, you can go to BB Technical Support, and that will bring you to the Blackboard support page, where they have their 24/7 phone number and chat line available. Also, under courses, everyone should be enrolled in a course titled Learning Commons Faculty Workshops. If you do not see that shell listed under my courses, please send me an email and we can work on getting you added to this shell. In that shell, we have Blackboard resources. And these resources will also be available under the Learning Commons. So if you go, they'll be in both places. We are still working on making video tutorials, so those will be updated as well. So again, that's the learningcommons.king.edu website, and if you log into Blackboard, it would be BB Technical Support. Now I'm going to pass it over to Vanessa Avila, who will be covering today's test and assignments workshop.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about how to create tests. Creating tests is kind of a process. What I'm going to be showing you today, it's creating a test based basically on what you probably have already created in a Word document. But we're going to be using a exam converter, and through that converter, it'll create a TXT file that Blackboard accepts. So basically, it'll take all your questions and just uploads it to Blackboard. There's just a few little modifications that you do have to make. So just bear with me in the process. I found that this was probably the easiest way to create a test versus, taking a question and individually creating it, one by one. So just give me one moment as I share my screen. Let's close all these out. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let me just, I'm just in my demo course. So I created a mock test. Your tests probably look much better than what I created. But, I have, kind of like a title along with this. So what you want to do, the first thing you want to do with your test is you want to make it as plain as possible. So you want to remove any titles that you have. You want to remove any numbers. So I only have, this is about a 12 question test. So I'm just going to remove the numbers, and you want to remove the A, B, C, and D. So what I have here, all right, so this is my modified one. And the only thing that I did to my questions is that I gave it this little kind of like an abbreviation for multiple choice, and then this caret. So let me just navigate to the Blackboard exam converter website. This is a website created by the New York Institute of Technology. I found that this site was very helpful because it gives you not only a video, but it gives you the step-by-step instructions on how to create that test. So you have here a link for a sample exam with instructions, and another just a sample exam. Right below here you have the abbreviations if you're going to be doing a multiple choice, multiple answer, essay, true and false, and so on. So these are the abbreviations and the symbol that you'll be using before your question. And then for the answer, you're going to put an asterisk next to that. So as you saw here, here is my symbol. I'm just going to highlight it so you can see it a little bit better. And here's the asterisk, you know, showing that this is going to be the answer. So you want to do that with all your questions. So most of these are multiple choice except for the last two, which I put a TF, right? And then the only difference is this one, you don't do an asterisk, you just write whether that answer is going to be true or false. So I've done that. So again, you are removing any headings that you have, any titles for that test. You're removing the numbers and the ABC for your choices. You're making it as plain as can be, right? And then you're just adding the MC or any of these abbreviations if you are going to be using as a question. Once you have done that, sorry, let me close this one. Once you have done that, what you're going to do is that you're just going to copy and paste this. So I've copied that. And in this website, you, once you go through all the reading, there is a box here at the end. And here's where you're going to paste your exam with, you know, the little modifications to your test. You're going to check for any syntax errors, right? So I have an error here for the last one, and I believe it's just this space. So I'm going to do it again. All right, so now it's all good. So I just had a space after false, so that's why it was giving me that error. But now if it doesn't have any errors, you're going to see this red button that says convert to Blackboard load file. So we're going to download that file. And if we open it, this is basically what you would have to do, which is very, very tedious if you had to do it yourself. So format it yourself. So you see that here's the type of question, which is a multiple choice. Here you have your question. And then for your answers, you would have to, let me just bring it over so you can see. So here are the answers for number one. And then following after that answer, you would have to write whether that's incorrect or correct. So again, this generator kind of helps a little bit than having to create this from scratch. But you want to open it, and then you just want to save it. So save it anywhere that you are going to be, wherever you want to save it in your computer, as long as you can identify which one it is. I'm just going to put today's date for this one, just so I know which one to upload to Blackboard. And I'm just going to hit save. And then I'm just going to close it out. So now we've taken the test that you've created. We've made some modifications based on the instructions from this website for the Blackboard exam converter. And then we're copying and pasting it into this box. The first option you're going to have is to check for any syntax errors. If you have any errors, it'll tell you right here, what that what question the error is in, and then you can make any changes. Once those errors are fixed, you can check for the error, check for the syntax error again. And if there are no errors, as you saw here, that says no errors found, proceed to VB exam conversion. You'll click, or you'll see this red button appear. You can click on it. It'll download. You will open it. You will save it. And then you are ready to navigate to your Blackboard. And now we can upload those questions. So once you have opened your Blackboard, the first thing you want to do is just scroll to the bottom where we see course management. So this second half here that is available to only instructors. Your students do not see this. And what we want to do is click on course tools. When you click on course tools, you will see the various tools that we have with Blackboard. But we want to scroll down and we want to click on tests, surveys, and polls. When we click on that, this new panel will open up and we want to click on tests. So as you can see, I've created many, but we're starting one brand new. So we're going to click on build test. And now you want to give your test a name. If you want to give a description, for example, this test will cover chapters 1 through 5. You can put that. And then if you have any instructions regarding this test, like for example, you have 60 minutes to complete, you can add that as well. Once you have added those 3 things, or maybe you just want to add the name, the description and instructions are totally optional. You can click submit. And now it's going to take us into the test canvas. So here is where you're going to upload your questions. Before I upload, as you can see here, you can create your questions. So if you're a person who wants to just create it from scratch and you just want to create your questions one by one, you would just click create question. And then you'll see the different questions that you can create. So you can, most of the time I see multiple choice. So you would just click on multiple choice. And then you will provide your question text in the box, right? So here's where your question will go. The answer numbering means how you want your choices to be displayed. So whether it's in Roman numerals or lowercase letters, you have 4 options. You can choose which one you'd like to use. Answer orientation is whether you want them to appear vertical or horizontal. And then if you want to show your answers in random order, you can select that as well. Oh, also you can select whether you're giving partial credit. Again, these are optional and you can choose that. And then you'll see some text boxes. So right here you have a number of answers. It's pre-selected to 4, but if you want to add more than 4 choices, you can. I'm just going to leave it at 4. You would write your answer in each text box, or your choices in each text box. And then next to each text box, you see these little circles. So by selecting that circle next to that text box, it will signify, okay, this is going to be the answer for this question. So, this is pretty much doing it one question at a time, which can be very time consuming. And then you can provide feedback for each question. So a feedback for a correct or incorrect answer. And that's pretty much what you can do, just question by question. So I'm just going to get out of here. And now I'm going to upload the question. So you have your TXT file that we've created. And now we're going to click on Upload Questions. We are going to browse our computer for that file. And I'm going to go ahead and open it. So now it's attached. And then you can select here how many points each question is going to be. So I'll put, I'm not sure if it'll work, but let's just see. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit. So it's off by a little, but you can always adjust these points. But here are your questions uploaded. And now we can get ready to deploy. Deploy means that we're making it available to your students. So right now, you've created the test under your course management, which is in your course tools under test surveys and pools. So this is the first step. You adding this test doesn't mean it's available to them. So now this is the first step. Now I'm going to go ahead and move out. I'm sorry, close the door. Hey, Nathaniel, close the door. Thank you. I apologize about that. So now we're going to navigate to our course content. So the course content is found at the very top. So we were in course management. Now we're just going to go above to where the course menu is. This here is what your students have access to. So we're going to click on course content. And then you're going to select which unit folder your test is going to be for. I'm going to select unit 1. And then we are going to click on assessments and then click on test. When the create test panel opens up, if this is your first test that you've created, you will only see the tests that you created. Obviously, I've created so many here. But I'm just going to click the 812 test 1, which is what I labeled it. And again, you want to make sure you select it and it's in blue. And then we're going to click submit. When you click submit, it'll take you into the test options. So here we have to go through a few things to make this available to your students. So when we initially created the test, it asked us for a name, for a description, and instructions. So here again, it'll have a text box for any descriptions. If you want to make any changes to this, you can, put that change in there. And then it's going to ask you here if you want to show the description to students before they begin the test. I'm just going to check it off. Again, this is optional. You don't have to do this, but the option is there. And then we have the test instructions, which I labeled, or I entered 60 minutes to complete this test. So I'm going to check this off that it's going to, you want this to be viewed by your students before the test. And then we have test availability. It's done. I'm doing a meeting. Okay. Can you close the door? I apologize. So then we have the test availability. We want to make sure that you select yes. You want to make this available. Sometimes we kind of miss this, and if it's set to no, it doesn't matter the dates that you put in, and we'll talk about the dates in a few seconds. It doesn't matter what dates you place. If this is made to not be available to your students, it won't be available. So just make sure that you have checked off yes. If you'd like to add a new announcement for this test, just as a reminder to your students, you can go ahead and do that as well. Multiple attempts. If you're giving your students extra chances to do this test, so maybe you want to give them, a second or a third attempt, so maybe, to get it right. So you can select multiple attempts, but you have to enter how many. So whether it's going to be unlimited or you're giving them a number. So they have 2 tries or 3 tries to create this test. Again, this is optional. Obviously, once you take a test, you take it that one time and that's it. But again, if you are allowing, extra chances, the ability is there. If you do select those extra, those multiple attempts, you will have the choice to score the attempts using either the last graded attempt, highest, lowest, first graded, or an average of the attempts that you've given them. So again, the option is there. Forced completion is basically you are allowing your students to take this test in one shot. Personally, I suggest you don't use this just for the simple fact that we are virtual now. So, anything can happen with connectivity issues. So if your student, I don't know, maybe their internet gives out for a few minutes, that's it. It'll close out the test and they do not have an extra chance, they're not able to resume where they left off. So if that's the case, yes, you can, clear the attempt so they can start over again. But again, if you don't want to go through that hassle, because maybe it doesn't happen to just one student and it happens maybe to 10 of your students, it can be cumbersome. So again, if this is something you're looking to use, I'm not discouraging you, but just from experience in the past semester, especially the spring semester, there were instructors using that, and it got a little, it got messy. So I just suggest that you stay clear of this one. But again, if this is something you want to use, by all means, the option is there. The set timer. So in my instructions, I did say that I'm giving them 60 minutes. So they are timed. There is a 60-minute little clock there that's ticking away. So after the 60 minutes, that test will shut off. You just have to add that number. So whether it's going to be 90 minutes, 120 minutes, you have to add that number there. And then you have the availability dates. So when is this test going to be available? Is it going to be available for 2 hours? Is it going to be available for 3 days, maybe a week? So here's where you would add those dates. you would click on the calendar, and then you would click on the time. So if it's going to be 2 hours, then you're giving them access today at 3 o'clock. And then it's going to close out at 5. So you would add, after and until, and, it'll do what it's said to do. You don't have to worry about a password unless you are requiring your students to have a password to take this test. But again, you don't have to use that. Test availability exceptions. This is something that you can use in the event that maybe your student needs extra time taking the test. Or I know, especially with the spring semester, I recall seeing a lot of requests because some students were nurses, and obviously they were going to school, but because of the pandemic, their whole schedules changed. So instructors were allowing these students to take it at a different day, at a different time that they were available to take tests. So here you can give a test availability where you can select that student, and then you can provide new dates specifically for that student. And again, display after and until, you provide the times, and that test will open just for that student at that time that you designed for them. Also, you have due dates. This is mostly used if you're not really looking so the availability dates where it's open. The due date, if you're not using availability dates, the due date will just, so let's say the test is due today at 3 o'clock. Your students will still be able to take the test, but anything after 3 o'clock, it will be marked late. So then you can penalize them however you would like regarding on that marked late. Marked late word. So that's that. Self-assessment options. We only have include this test in Grade Center score calculations selected. Please do not click on hide results from the test completely from the instructor in Grade Center. If you do select,
Rabbit, please scratch me. I give Randy he scratched my finger.
Okay. You're okay. I'll give you a Band-Aid when I finish. You don't have nothing on your hand. Okay? Okay. Close the door, please. Thank you. My apologies again. So as I was saying, if you do select that option, it's going to hide the results of that test and you won't get it back. So it means that in order to get results, that your students have to retake that test. So please stay clear from that, and you won't have a problem. Under show test results and feedback to students, we have the option to show your students all answers, correct answers, submitted answers, feedback, show incorrect answers. Right now, all that is selected or pre-selected is score per question. If you want to show your students what they've submitted, you can go ahead and check that off. If you provided feedback in your questions, then you can, and you want to show them that feedback, you can select that. Or if you don't want to show them anything, unselect everything. Or maybe you just want to show them incorrect questions, then you can select that. So again, these are optional. Whatever you want to give your students access to, you can, or you don't have to give them access to anything. And then the final section is the test presentation. So how do you want your test to look? Do you want all your questions to be displayed at one time? Or do you want your questions to be displayed one at a time? So meaning they only see one question and then they answer it, they click next to go on to the next question. You can prohibit them from backtracking. So you can prohibit them from going back and changing answers. And then you can also randomize the questions. So not everyone is getting number one as number one. They're getting 5 as 1 and 2 as 6. And, it just, mixes them up for everyone. So not everyone is working on the same question at the same time. So if that's what you're looking to do, please check that off, and then you can click submit. So now we have successfully deployed our test into our Unit 1 folder. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see here that this test is available. If your test is not available, for example, like this Keen Online orientation quiz, which you see that the icon is a little bit, grayed out versus the one that is available. So again, if you forgot to make it available, you can always click on this chevron and just make it available. You have the option there. But here is our test. Here is what we've, so from the beginning, we created a TXT file using the exam converter website. Then we uploaded it to Blackboard and created, or we deployed it, I should say, to your students, and now it's there. One question that always comes up is proctoring. Now that we are going to be remote for the beginning or the first few weeks of the semester, you want to proctor your students. We do have Respondus Lockdown Browser. So if that's something you're looking to do, there's an additional step now. So after you deploy your test and it's available in the unit folder, we're going to go back into course tools. Right, so I have my course tools open still, and we are just going to scroll down until we see Respondus Lockdown Browser, and we're going to click on it. So you're going to initially see this about Lockdown Browser, which has some great, as you see here, resources, a getting started, a video tutorial if you want to see exactly what Respondus Lockdown Browser is. By all means, take a look at it. But I'm just going to click on Continue to Lockdown Browser here on the bottom, this orange button here. And it's going to automatically pick up all the tests that I have available. So I'm just going to stick with the one that we've just created, the 812 test 1. So as you see here currently right now, Respondus Lockdown Browser is not required for this test, but I want to make it required. So I'm going to click on the square chevron, which highlights in green when I hover over it. And then I'm going to click on Settings. So what the Lockdown Browser does, it's for your students, it's an application that they have to download to their device, to their computers. It is not compatible with Chromebooks. The version of Lockdown Browser that we have, there's no way to do that. So Chromebooks are out. If your students have Chromebooks, I would just suggest that you survey your class at the beginning of the semester just to see what they have. But again, Chromebooks are not compatible. So the first thing you want to do is that obviously you want to require Respondus Lockdown Browser. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm not going to add a password. And then under advanced settings, if your students are using iPads, they can use the Lockdown Browser, but they have to download an app from the Apple Store. So if your students are using iPads, please click on Advanced Settings and then click on the second option that says Allow students to take this exam with an iPad, and then using the Lockdown Browser app from the Apple App Store, right? So just make sure you have that selected. And then if you are you want them to use a calculator, excuse me, I'm sorry, or allow specific external web domains. Again, you have some options here, but again, what the lockdown browser does is that once they download this app and then they're ready to take this test, they're logging in with lockdown browser. They're not logging into Blackboard using Google Chrome or Firefox. They're closing everything on their computer and they're clicking here. So on my desktop, this is the lockdown browser icon. So I would click this. First, I would close everything I have open on my computer because it's going to require it to kill every program on there. I'm so sorry. What is it?
Do you have any candy? Because I ate all my food.
No, I'm doing a meeting. Can you please? We'll talk about that later. Can we please close the door?
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so they would click on lockdown browser. They're not clicking on their Google Chrome. They are not clicking on Firefox. If they do so, they will be prompted and they'll be asked, okay, we need a password. And they're going to email you. I don't know the password to take my test. Close the door. I'm sorry. So if they're being required or asked for a password, they're not using lockdown browser. They have to download the app as I downloaded, and it's on my desktop. And then on the day of the test, I'm closing everything on my computer. I'm clicking lockdown browser. It's going to take them to the Blackboard sign-in. So they're going to put in their username. They're going to put in their password, and they're going to navigate to their course or your course. And then they'll navigate to wherever the test is in the unit folder. And once they open that test, it's going to lock everything on their computer. So they can't search, search answers on the web. They can't have any, chat or hangouts or anything like that. Nothing. Like it's strictly just Blackboard open for the test. So that's the lockdown browser aspect of it. We also have the monitor, which is the webcam. So your students have to have a webcam. And if that's the case and you want to require that, you're going to get this little notice, but you're just going to click on continue to respond to this lockdown browser. And then it's going to take you through a startup sequence. So what do you want them, basically to see? So obviously it's going to do a webcam check to make sure that their cameras are working. Do you want to give additional instructions, right? So I'm just going to preview so you can see. So you can do any additional instructions that you'd like. Do you want them to see any guideline tips? And mind you, these are checked off. If you don't want to give additional instructions, you can check these off. But the guidelines and tips, okay, avoid rooms with children or people are present. Turn off televisions, radio, and music. And then whatever, they can keep going on and it'll keep giving them some type of suggestions. Again, if you don't want it, uncheck it off. Do you want them to show a student photo? So perhaps, they can use, under it says show ID. So entirely up to you if you want to use both or if you want to require them just to show their student ID. So it'll take a picture of them and then they can take a picture of their ID. So, wow, that's a horrible picture. Wow, let's not do that again. So again, you can show an ID. And then it'll definitely do an environment check. So it'll kind of scan everything behind them. So, to see if there's anything kind of weird or anything that's going to flag them. And then it's by default, it's going to do a facial detection. That doesn't mean that it's like doing some some weird, conspiracy thing. It's just a facial detection that the camera can see their face. So I don't know if maybe they turn or something, it's going to flag and say, okay, can't see the face. So for example, if I do a preview, it's detecting my face. Success. Let me see if I can do this. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's still grabbing anyway. All right. Well, it does a facial detection check. And then you have here the facial detection options, which it's checked off to prevent students from starting the exam. The face cannot be detected. Notify students during the exam if the face cannot be detected. So you have all these options here, and then you also have some advanced options that can be selected as well. But these are the main ones. So definitely, if your students are using iPads, click that requirement under advanced settings under the lockdown browser. And then for the monitor exam, you can choose, what the startup sequence is going to be when they, start the test. Once you have done that, you can save and close. And as you can see here, it is now required for this test. And then when I go back into the course content and I navigate to my unit 1, we're going to see here that the title kind of looks a little different, right? So before we only saw 812 test 1, but now with the Respondus Lockdown browser, it has webcam and requires Respondus Lockdown browser, attached with it. So that's how you would add the Respondus Lockdown browser. It can be a little cumbersome. It can be very confusing. Maybe it's confusing for you, but I know we do get issues with students saying that the Respondus Lockdown browser is not working. It's because they're not accessing it correctly. So it takes a little getting used to. But if you don't want to go through that, I have seen instructors get a little more creative with the proctoring. So they'll create a regular test, and then they will also create maybe a Zoom session or a collaborate session. And they'll just say, okay, when it's time to take the test, log into Zoom. And, basically the instructor will just be on watching as they're taking their test. Now, can the instructor tell that they're searching answers? Probably not. But if you're not really worried about stuff like that, at least you're watching them and you're going, with them along the ride of taking a test as they would if they were in a classroom. That's one way of doing it as well. So, whether you want to proctor using Respondus, that is the option. That's how you would add that Respondus Lockdown browser. If not, then we can talk about other ways to proctor as well. So that's pretty much how to create a test and adding the Respondus Lockdown browser. I'm trying to think.
Vanessa, you have 2 questions?
Sure. What is it?
So the first one is they want to see how to do that with an essay form.
Essay form, yeah.
Yeah, and the second one.
Okay.
And the second one is how do you put diagrams on tests?
Okay, give me 1 second. It's gonna rain. Can we go please close the door? You can't go to the beach. Mommy's working. Can you please go close the door? Thank you. Go put your shorts back on. Ooh. Close the door. I'm sorry. Okay. So the first question was
they want to see how to do it for essay form, and then the second one was can you put diagrams on tests, and then show them how to do it.
Yes. So okay. So the first one, essay form. So I'm gonna go back to test surveys and polls. Is the whole test going to be essays, or are we just creating a test essay question?
The whole test would be essays. And
Okay.
I'm wondering if you could show us how to do it through the Blackboard converter.
Okay.
Thanks, Vanessa.
No problem. So let me erase this. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is ESS and then the caret, right? Because this is here. So this is the symbol and the abbreviation, or abbreviation and symbol. I don't know. That's a short essay question. Anyone have an idea? Let me think.
Explain the steps of the Blackboard converter.
Okay, explain the steps of the converter. There you go. Let me do another one. So ESS, explain, XYZ, demo. I'll just do one more. Let me not do that, please. Go take it to grandma. Go take it to grandma. Please stop and close the door. I'm just gonna, demo these. All right, so that's all you're doing. You're just writing that abbreviation with the caret symbol. You're writing your question. You're checking for the syntax errors. There were none, so I can convert this file. That file has downloaded. So if you look here to the bottom left, here is my question. I'm just going to save this. So I'm just going to put essay. And I'm just going to save. So when I go back into my test, so again, I went into course tools. I clicked on test surveys and pools. I clicked on tests. It's going to bring me here. I'm going to click build test. Again, if you want to add a description and instructions, you can. I'm just going to leave it blank for now. And now I'm going to click on upload questions. I'm going to select my file. Again, you can add your points per question there. And then I'm going to click submit. So here are your essay questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, you would, after you put in your questions, you have to deploy them. So you would have to now, after this, you would, go to your course content, select the unit that you're going to be, deploying this test to your students, and then you just go through those same steps again. And the second question, Asia, was how to add
how to put
diagrams.
Yeah, on the test.
So the diagram, is that like an image that you have saved to your computer?
Kathy, you can speak
Yeah,
on
I just turned on my microphone. I tend to hand draw the images, but I could take a photograph of them and then I could put them onto my computer.
Okay. So I'm just going to work from the same one because you're basically just adding, it's just basically adding an image.
Yes.
So you would go to your questions. So after you upload your questions, it's just an extra step that you would have to go in. So you would edit that question with, and then you're just adding that diagram. So let me backtrack so you can see how I clicked edit. So I'm going to my question, right? So for example, let's say it was question 1. There is a chevron, this little gray circle with this drop-down arrow.
Hello.
You get some options here. You can click edit. And then in this text box, you have some like a content editor. So if you look here on the last row, you had this little icon that looks like a picture with mountain and a sun or a moon. You can click that. You're going to browse your computer. Let me look for, I'm just gonna upload an image. So I'm gonna select my image. So my image is here, and then I can just insert. So once I insert my image, it's there. So maybe, like, I know that the image right now is currently too big. So what I can do is I can adjust it. So I kind of double clicked it and it kind of highlights the whole thing. And then you see these little squares on the corners. You can always, adjust the size. And then your question is right below. So once you've, adjusted your picture and you have your question there, you can click submit. And then that image will be visible along with the question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vanessa,
Yes.
I have a two-part question. When we do a multiple choice test, I noticed you took away the numbers and the alphabeticals. Must we do that?
If you're going to be using it for the converter, yes.
No, without the converter. Well,
Oh
can't
no.
they
When if you're creating it from scratch, right? So you're in your canvas. You can create your question. So you're just clicking create question. You're clicking multiple choice, and then now you're creating an individual question. So here, all you're doing is just adding the question, and then choosing how your choices are going to be numbered. So let's say the question is, what is, I don't know.
Whatever.
Any question, right?
Yeah.
And then the choices you have are either A, B, C, or D, or do you want to say 1, 2, 3, 4? So this is the answer numbering. So you can select whether it's going to be a number or a lowercase letter, whatever it is, you can select that. But you're just creating the question. So you don't have to write, okay, so question 1, this is question 1, because Blackboard automatically numbers the questions as many as you put in. So for example, with this one, I created 3 essay questions. As you can see, here's the number 1 for the first essay question, number 2. So that automatically is there. But the only time that I've removed that is if you already have a test that is created, and maybe your test is 50 to 100 questions. I know that is very cumbersome for some people to have to basically create a question one by one. So with the converter, at least you're just, you're still making modifications to the question, but all you're doing is just removing the numbering system from it, adding the MC squared to each question and the asterisk to the answers. So there's 2 ways of doing it. So what I showed you, I think it's just a quicker way of having to enter all that information one by one versus doing it one by one.
Okay, number 2,
Mm-hmm.
you showed us a page that shows the weight for what the student has done. Either they turned in nothing at all or they turned in everything. and it went from 0 to 100, I believe. Is that for each question or overall? And how do we get back to that page?
I'm sorry, you lost me.
It was
0 to 100?
it was a page that demonstrated how you would grade a page, a test.
I think he's talking about under the options to when you create your test.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, and it had like 5 different boxes. One of them was from the student did nothing, the student did nothing and didn't come to class, and then from the third box, the student did adequately. The fourth box, the student did above average, and the last box, the student answered the complete question. And each one had a different weight.
Are you talking about a rubric?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The tests don't have a rubric. That's
No, I'm sorry. I'm just asking, how do we get to that page to use it?
I'm saying, like, if you're gonna use a rubric, in the options, there's no options for a test to have a rubric. The rubric is only for like assignments or discussion questions, things that you're grading. A test is something different. It's not based on a rubric. It's just based on how many points you give it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You had another question. How do you remove all the numbers and the questions and letters like A, B, C, D? Or do you have to highlight each one individually?
There's a number of ways to do it. I mean, when I created this one, I think I just had the numbering selected. So I kind of just unselected it, and it removed the numbers and the choices. Or I think you can do the find, and then or the replace. I'm sorry. You can do replace, and then you can just remove, the numbers and just replace it with nothing. So it'll just, so find number. So let me open that up, the other thing again. So this is the one that I had. So I can always, let me see if it works, being that I did it this way. No, it's not going to do it that way because I had this formatted. So if I take that away, or if I just highlight the whole test and just remove that, now it's not doing it, of course. Let me go ahead from here. So it removes it. And then again, I can always remove that as well. It's gonna take some modification to do this as well. Oops. Yeah, so that would be pretty much, it's depending how you formatted it. If you formatted it with the numbering that I used here from the top, then you would just have to highlight the whole thing and then just select none. If you didn't use it and then it was just regular number 1 and then the rest of your stuff, you can just remove that by using the replace. So you will write the numbers and then don't write anything in replace, and it should just remove them because you're replacing it with nothing.
I accidentally hit hang up and I missed what you said. I really apologize.
Okay.
But when I typed the test,
Mhm.
I literally typed the question, and then each of the answer choices. I didn't do any automatic numbering.
Okay.
So I'm not too sure if what you just showed me would actually work.
With the replace
Because
or the numbering format?
well, I saw how you did the numbering thing.
Yeah.
Will
So
that work if I literally typed in every single number?
So it automatically numbers for mine. I know sometimes it doesn't do it.
See, I have Windows 8,
Okay.
so I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
So I'm just gonna do this. Hold on. So I'm just doing it. I'm guessing the same way that you probably have them numbered, right? So if you do replace, and you put find 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. No results found. Okay, let me do that again. So you probably would have to that would probably be that probably might be a little tedious to remove all. But yeah, I mean, it has to be removed to use the converter.
Okay.
So either you go into every question and just delete the numbers, probably quicker than doing that replace. Or again, just see if maybe that format here, so that numbering format is being used. You can just click none and it'll just take everything away.
Okay. But it won't take away A, B, C, and D. That would have to be done by hand.
When I did it, it took it away, A, B, C, and D, and the numbers. So
Okay.
just check and see if that format is applied to your file.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. If not, then yeah, you would probably have to go in it and kind of clear it out one by one.
Okay.
Vanessa,
Yes,
I have one more question. I'm sorry.
it's okay.
Make our own test. Where did we get that blank piece of paper that you're demonstrating on? And make up our own test and submit it to the students.
This is just a Word document.
Okay.
I'm just using Word.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and, open up a Word document, create your own test. And if you prefer not to do the test through Blackboard, maybe you want to just submit it to them some other way. Again, I'm not saying doing it, as long as it's approved by your dean, by all means. But I'm just showing you how to create it via the exam converter.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions?
There's none in the chat.
Okay. So again, so we went over how to create the test using the Blackboard exam converter. You will get a email with the video for this workshop, and you'll also get the link to this website. Again, it's very helpful. It has a video. It shows you exactly how to do it. And then it does provide some links with, just a sample exam if you want to just test it out to make sure that you got it right. It's there, and it has great instructions step by step, just as I explained it to you all. So again, it can be tedious either way, whichever way you prefer to you do it. This is not the only converter that you can use. I believe that if you have access to like Pearson or another publisher, they have converters within their websites as well. So if you want to check those out, you can. I don't have access to Pearson. I'm not an instructor, so I don't have access to those materials. But definitely check it out. I'm pretty sure that they do have instructions on how to use that as well. But you're not limited to this, exam converter site. This was just one that I found that was free, and it's just great. So you'll get the link to this website and any other resources that we talked about earlier. Again, also, I think Gabby spoke about the Learning Commons faculty shell that we have for you guys. There is a folder on how to create tests there. And I have that information in those folders as well. So if you click on Learning Commons faculty workshops and you click on Blackboard resources, you'll see a list of folders, but definitely on how to create tests. And I do have instructions on how to create tests one at a time. Here is the test generator website. Uploading that TXT file that we've downloaded. And then I do have the Lockdown browser instructions for instructors and for students. So the information is, at your disposal. But again, you will receive some resources with this video workshop momentarily. Okay. So if we don't have any more questions, that concludes our workshop for today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to support@kane.edu, or you can